Well, welcome everyone to the Public Board of Education meeting, Tuesday, March the 11th. And what I would like to do, first of all, is remind us that we are in the traditional territory of a large geographic area. Campbell River and Quadra schools and our school board office are located in the traditional territory of the Lakeville people. And School District 72 also encompasses the traditional territory of the Glahoos, on Cortez, Comox, the Sayward, and the Malco, Buchan First Nations. And I'd just like to acknowledge that I wish I could do as wonderful a land acknowledgement as Trustee Gladish did in our confidential meeting today. She shared a very heartfelt story about birth, aging, and I related very much to the aging part of it. So thank you. Just a few comments as we begin. I'm really excited to share with you an article I was reading today in the local paper, and you may have read it, but it says this: something to smile about. Survey says Campbell River the happiest place in BC. According to a recent Statistics Canada survey, Campbell River residents have the highest level of life satisfaction in British Columbia. This gateway city scored 61.34% in the satisfaction, and there was no other community that had a rating above 50 in the province. So let us look around and feel very fortunate to live in this wonderful part of the world. I also wanted to say that I really had the privilege of seeing examples of the arts flourishing within our community. Several of us went to Head Over Heels, which was the Timberline dramatic production. Some wonderful talents there, and certainly showed the dedication of many of their teachers and a lot of the passion they have for the arts. I also was privileged to be able to showcase, or I should say, MC the music showcase, which brought together 7 elementary choirs, a secondary choir, and a Carey High band. And again, just shows the flexibility of our district. It was originally slated for Carey High, but as we know, it pivoted and Timberline embraced and welcomed everyone. And so again, it was wonderful to see that. I love to watch the audience faces, because the parents, the friends, and so on that are there are just so excited and so pumped up, and so they should be. And finally, literacy is alive and flourishing in our district. Battle of the Books was hosted by Phoenix School on Thursday. There are 4 new district champions now, but I think what's so important is that all of these students have learned that there is a passion for it and interest in reading. So there were teams from grade 3, from grade 4, from grade 5, and then there was middle school champions. And there were no tears following the competition. So it told us that they had the right attitude and the right family support. And so with those thoughts and welcomes about welcome of many of the things that I believe are so powerful in our district, I'll turn things over to our superintendent's comments.
Thank you, Chair Gillis. And we have this thing that Chair Eddie and I usually share these 2 moments, and we always wonder, we never share our notes. We never talk about what we're going to speak about. And usually Kat goes and it takes 2 or 3 things off my list. And so I thought, here I've got Craig tonight, and I'll be nice and safe. And probably half the things I was going to say, he took off my list. So you're following in the footsteps of the regular chair. So thank you very much, Chair.
I could read your list.
Yeah. But what I will say, what Chair Gillis left out, the district musical showcase at Timberline was fabulous, and the kids did an amazing job, and the parents come out and they support those kids like unbelievably well. And the organization that has to happen to get all of those kids on and off the risers and all organized is incredible. But what Craig would never say, because he's far too humble, is as the master of ceremonies, he keeps the show going. Very entertaining, very humorous. The parents love them and eat it up. And so just want to thank Chair Gillis for the part he plays in that. And the other thing that he mentioned that I was going to mention was the Battle of the Books. And I noticed in the photos, there's a nice article on our district webpage. I noticed that Chair Gillis seems to be the one that was emceeing that activity as well. So I'm sure it was very well received, and maybe that's why there were no tears, because you do such a good job of welcoming the kids and they feel like they're really being heard. I will point out that the grade 3 champion was Sandown Elementary, and the grade 4 champions were Willow Point. The grade 5 champions came from EDM, and the grade 6 champions were from Southgate Middle School. So just a fantastic event. Unfortunately, I had to miss it. I was in the Lower Mainland for meetings, but I was at the event last year, and really it was something that I will go to every chance I get. And I'm sorry that I just did this time around, but thank you for hosting that, for emceeing. I did want to mention the Skills Canada North Island Regionals, because we had that take place at Timberline a couple of weeks ago, and Carey High had 4 students that are going to now advance to the provincial level in Abbotsford, and a shot at the nationals after that. And there were 7 other students from both Timberline and Carey High who medaled at that event. And it's everything from foods to digital photography to cabinet making. And it really showcases some of the skills that our students are developing in programs that are being taught right in our school district. So that's awesome to see. I just wanted to end off with 2 quick things. We are still in the midst of kindergarten registrations. We've had a big push earlier in February, but now we are almost at 300 kindergarten students registered. We're at 299 as of tonight. We're trying to get to 375. So there's about 75 kids out there that we're waiting to welcome to Campbell River School District, and we hope that happens. But just a reminder to everyone in the public that if you do have a kindergarten age student, please register online at one of our locations and choose a school near you. The last thing I'm going to say, we are only 3 days away from spring break, and we are getting ready to move our Carey High students back to Carey High from Oyster River. Thursday will actually be their last day in attendance at Oyster River. And then Friday, teachers will be getting all the classrooms ready that were damaged, getting them ready for students to return on Friday. And the only students that will be away from Carey High for the rest of the school year are the students that are sharing Rob Ron for gym classes. And I believe we have a class that's being hosted at NIC for food. So that's awesome that they were able to help us out. Wishing the staff at Carey High the best of luck on Friday as they get set up for welcoming back all of their kids.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Manning. And I was remiss in mentioning that Kat Eddy and excuse me, Trustee McMahon are unable to be here. Both came down with those terrible colds right now and felt that it wouldn't be fair to share that with us this evening. So our thoughts are with them, and we're sending them positive, healthy vibes. So I'd now like to move to approval of the minutes of February 25th, 2025, approved, circulated, or amended, and Trustee Hagan, and seconded by Trustee Harper. All in favor? Thank you. And then any business arising from the minutes? Yes, Trustee Glavine.
I wanted to bring us back to 2522, the board chairs meeting with MLA North Island and McKinley. And it occurred to me that that was an important meeting because board chairs from this area were there, and some educational issues were on the agenda. And I wondered about the possibility of carrying on with that momentum so that those educational issues remain high on the agenda and they're not forgotten, because we do, after all, want to see some things achieved in our district, not to mention Cedar Elementary. So if that could happen, I think it would only benefit our work as a board.
Certainly.
Okay, so I don't know if she'd be willing, but I don't know why she wouldn't be either.
Right.
Okay, just a suggestion.
So carrying on that connection.
Yes,
and
that
ensuring
connection,
that
yeah.
the issues that or
It stays
topics that
high
are
on the
discussed
agenda,
stay high on
and that
the
you
agenda.
could advocate
Thank you
for
for
it.
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. All right.
So do we have any additions or alterations to our agenda? Okay, that said, if we could call for the agenda to be hereby approved as circulated and amended. And trustee Gladish, seconded by trustee Hagan. All in favor? Thank you. And now report of board decisions from February 25th, confidential board meeting. Over to you, Vice Chair Gillis. Do I speak in a different voice?
Yes.
Okay. We discussed teaching, administrative and support staff changes and property, legal and financial issues. Thank you, trustee Gillis. Okay, and on to correspondence. Seeing none, we'll move to any agenda submissions. Any public submissions? Hearing none, we have a great opportunity to call for, under educational submissions, a wonderful presentation, I'm sure, from Christine Middleton from Sayward and Rachel Nelson from Phoenix. If you would come forward, we look very forward to your presentation on anti-racism and inclusion.
So can I see on the minutes?
It was the report for today's meeting.
That's the wrong date.
I know. Yeah, I saw that. Thanks. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the welcome. I appreciate it. As Mr. Gillis mentioned, I'm Rachel Nelson. I'm currently the principal at Phoenix Middle School and also have a point two in my portfolio as a district anti-racism lead. So wanted to share a little bit about that, and I'm working in collaboration with Christine, who, yeah, may introduce her. Yeah. So Christine Middleton. I'm the principal in Saybridge at the moment, and I don't have a cold, but I do have allergies. That's what I'm suffering from. And we just wanted to give a real brief overview of why we are doing these things. I do a point two, has been called OG lead, and we're hearing that may change. So I'll refer to it as inclusion. I think we'll probably still be playing a little bit with what that title will be, and so that will be forthcoming, I hope. And in the meantime, briefly, why I was interested in even doing this role is that it's just a passion area of mine, to make sure that all students are included in across our district, despite who they are, how they identify, and that we welcome everybody into our fold equally. And it's also personal to me because I have 4 children, and my youngest is trans and has given me permission to share that with anybody that would like to hear about it. And they are very open in talking about it and about how that transition came about. And so that's been a real eye-opener for me, to walk that path with my child. And it's also been a struggle with some of the people in our life that have not welcomed them in. And so I don't want any child to feel that. And that's a little bit about why I'm doing this. Yeah, and I think there's a synchronicity with the work around anti-racism and inclusion, just because it's identity. It's identity work. And so helping students to understand their own positionality, how they walk through the world, how they can remain curious about how others walk through the world, and to sort of tend to those things with an open heart and a bit of grace. And so there is this synchronicity between the inclusion and the anti-racism work. So it's been a really nice opportunity. I'm grateful to the district for that opportunity to sort of lean into that and to get to support others in their learning. It has been very meaningful and enriching for us. And I think, yeah, you were going to just sort of unpack a little bit about how it's connected to those bigger goals, right? So you can see how we're anchoring in. So it was interesting when the very first meeting that, sorry, Rachel and I met and we started digging into what direction we wanted to go in. And then we really noticed that it just aligns with our district goals. Like there's pieces of it in everything that we do. Sorry, I forgot to change that. And you let me know. Yeah, you might have to. And really the overarching theme to it is the equity piece. And that's really what it comes down to. And so that is where we started to focus what we were doing. And that all of those lists there, the relations, expectations, relevancy, and rigor is what we keep at the forefront when we're meeting and doing anything that we're doing. I don't spend too much time on that. I can do it at a time.
Sure. I think that this has been central to the work of the district, and I think it's just these two, the identifying, this work where we could actually collectively work and have time outside of our school sites. I think it's just a way of amplifying the work that was already happening in our district in lots of ways, but to really create some collective momentum across the district. So that's how we saw our role. So we have 3 pillars that we sort of were operating from. So that's what we've been working on this year that we wanted to share. Inclusive environments, right? And where we had every school, and we're working a little bit with HR, and they're doing scans, like equity scans. What do you see? How do you know that places and spaces are inclusive, right, of all people, and we're remaining curious about that, and accountable, right, to reflect on that in very open and meaningful ways that's connected to the human rights legislation and all kinds of things around PR. And so we're working with school leads in our school site buildings and bring them together, as well as with our administrative teams in school sites. And district policies and procedures is another one. We're working with human resources. They've been very open to embracing our curiosity and wanting to work with us just around policies and procedures, and just looking and uncovering and being curious about systemic barriers that we, unconscious bias, things that we just need to remain curious about. We're all cultured in the way we've been raised, and to bring in more voices and to explore, right, what we need to uncover and look at. Which will be a powerful process that we continue to engage in. And then capacity building for teaching with our educators that are in the classrooms, but also those learning resources, right, and where we can lean into those. Much of this work has been happening in quiet ways over the last 5 years, and I say this is just an opportunity for us to capture and celebrate some of the great work that our librarians in our schools have been doing for years, very quietly, in the realm of making sure that there is, identity literature that represents diverse ethnicities and identities, and those things are happening. So it's just a way for us to have checkpoints to reflect and then see how we can amplify it. So we're working with administrative staff to, admin in schools around their learning, supporting teachers in the classroom, and then also that student voice, that really important student voice about how is it going, how are they experiencing our spaces and places. So those were our 3 big anchors.
Yeah. And just to dig into those a little bit more, some of the acronyms that we're playing with right now are STED and IDEA. So the STED is safety, accessibility, inclusion, and diversity. IDEA has been used, so we're not sure if we can use that one, but I like that because again, it includes the equity piece, the E's for equity. So again, it's about the inclusive environments and really starting with our admin group and doing some learning with them so that then they can take some things back to their staff and help support them as well. And what we found when we did our scan of all the schools is that it is visible in most schools, in most areas. But most schools have either GSA or Rainbow Club. The piece that is a little bit missing is the digging in and calling it, naming it, supporting it. There's some struggle with staff to know how to respond. if they hear something racist or they hear something homophobic, it's that like, oh, I know I should say something, but I don't know what. So that's part of what we will dig into to make sure that you have some responses. And so we'll start to incorporate what we call snippets of learning at our DLT meetings. And that is to give, again, the admin something to take back to their staff meetings to share with them. It might be a myth and a fact, just a couple little things that we can just build capacity around. We would like to have monthly meetings with our leads and just to go over resources. But what we found at the last meeting we had is that the leads really appreciated just being able to gather together and share their experiences and talk about maybe what they weren't getting and that they needed from us. And it's been amazing. Yeah, and then taking that information back and getting that training happening in that sort of organic way.
There's a lot on that slide, and so I'm not gonna be offended when you look at it as I'm speaking, but I'm not gonna speak. I will speak about that, but not to those directly. I think our educators and our administrators in our buildings really, the world is a confusing place for our young people. And I think that we want to have really thoughtful, engaging opportunities. And that's where we see our work to create authentic conversations and opportunities for them to reflect on how they fit in the world, and the skills that they can bring to sort of evaluating how they will navigate, right, their world. And so certainly within the work around anti-racism, right, having a sort of very clear strategies for action, right, for engaging in that in thoughtful ways and making sure that student voice. So students need a place to learn about a lot of the things that are confusing for them about the world, that they get lots of different messages of in the, the community out in the world. And so they need a place to ask those questions in a safe way and to deconstruct some of those things and sort of see where their values are. And so our goal is just to provide opportunities through education, building capacity so they can do that. We're also a resource that will pop into schools. And our librarians are a fabulous resource as well.
And this one is where it gets a little messy right now. We're in the messy stage of trying to develop some real clear district policies and procedures. And so we're working with HR to look at what is already there and then what we need to add to it to fill in the gaps and make it really clear, the policy piece and then the procedure, right? What is the follow-up? And then some things that came out through HR is like having it, looking at it from the hiring process on up. And because this does affect all of us and we, like I said, I don't know, we're not there yet, but we definitely have a nice draft done.
Yeah, and I do think the intention of the work is not to highlight that the work hadn't been being done, right? It was covered it's covered in our policies and procedures currently expansively. It's simply that we're wanting to highlight and create some clear language that is responsive and direct about where the school district sits on issues of racism and inclusion. And so it's just about, looking at it and having an annual review process to see what still fits. And so because some of the sentiments have always been there, I think sometimes the clear language is what we're working through. And I think the onboarding policies and procedures, I think that kind of stuff is great. Like, who are we as a district? How do we frame, and draw, potential employees in, and what is our messaging and how does that present in the broader community? So I think this has just been a really generative and positive learning experience for us, working with some fabulous people in that realm. Yeah. We could do this forever, but these are some fun things we're going to continue on to work on. We're just working on this. It is a very, there's always work to do, right? And so things we're going to continue to do.
Yeah.
Is support, right? strengthen, create, bring our team together every month, create a sustainable group that can meet regularly, right? To support each other and support their school structures, and share out at their staff meetings monthly. So, yeah. Those are just some of the things.
And really, this could be in a circle, probably better, because it's not, priority. Not priority. Value all of those things, that we would like to continue doing, equally. Yeah, and. Oh. Question? Yeah.
We just threw a lot at you, so
Yeah.
thank you for being such.
Yeah.
Quick listeners.
Well, thank you. Yeah, let's see, is anyone have, yes, Jen?
I was just at a core pro D meeting yesterday and we were talking about, we were discussing orientation for new staff, new teachers. And I would think that it would be so important to review some of these policies and practices and to just do something about the district's work on this topic that you're talking about, so that people feel apprised, aware, and they know what to do. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, they just want to make that comment.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, sorry, I want to say that maybe there needs to be a coordinated approach with that as well. So, you know, it's really powerful and worthwhile and not difficult.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's the beautiful thing about the strength of our HR department is we have this luxury of sort of being the idea people and the thinkers about the curriculum and the social justice and how we pull it together. And then they're working with us to actually make it a procedural piece that can be directly and clearly communicated in a hiring or onboarding process or as a part of school startup, right? When we're looking at respectful workplace policies and procedures and how this fits in. So absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone? I just want to thank you. I did an online workshop through the federal government recently, and it was around unpacking unconscious bias. And it really gave me some filters to take a look at sometimes our just preconceived notions, and gave us the courage sometimes to ask questions. And not from a judgmental perspective, but just a deepening of our understanding. And I think that's clearly what you're both trying to do, is give people tools to recognize that we can have responsibility in the school system, that is a public system, to try and understand what's happening for our students and know how best to support them when that call is made. So
Yeah.
thank you. Really appreciate having such champions and leaders within our own school system, and we wish you well in your next steps. I see you've got quite a few. Yeah.
Can I just do one quick acknowledgement? I do want to say on what you were just saying about having the tools. And one of the first things that we did was create some templates, and I want to give Jennifer Patrick over there much grace and gratitude for helping to draft up some templates for staff to use when communicating around these subjects. So she's been amazing.
Yeah, well, we consider she's a treasure as well.
Yeah, we agree.
Yeah.
We concur. Thanks very much. And I
Thank you
appreciate
for
your
being
time.
here this
Yeah,
evening.
we appreciate
Really,
it.
thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks so much.
On to electorate and board matters. At a ministry partner liaison meeting, March 7th, that was attended by Chair Eddie, Superintendent Manning, and Secretary Treasurer Patrick. I believe that you'll be able to share some of your experience with us.
Okay, sure. So we were at ministry meetings. There was an all superintendent meeting last Thursday, and then a partner liaison meeting that featured superintendents, secretary treasurers, and board chairs from all 60 districts in the province. We were addressed by Minister Bear, who is the Minister of Education. She laid out her mandate, her platform for where she hopes to see education continuing. As she mentioned specifically, safety and of students in schools, the improvement of educational objectives, striving for educational excellence, and putting strong supports in all schools across the province. She had a number of initiatives that she spoke to. I'll just highlight some of the big ones. One of them was continued funding for Feeding Futures. That's coming to all districts. There'll be continued funding for mentorship programs. So as a school district, we're eagerly awaiting to see what that might look like in the near future. A continued emphasis on reconciliation. And there was also an emphasis on, once again, erase and safer schools. And that was shared with all of us.
Thank you. Did you have anything further to add?
No,
It's such a comprehensive.
those were the highlights. I would say the ministry puts on the liaison meeting day, and they did a really good job with some solid information to be shared out to everybody in the comments.
Yes, trustee Hagan.
Yeah, was there any comments about the amount of funding that they were interested in? These might be priority areas, but were they talking about substantially increasing, like the food program, for example?
Yeah, the numbers were between 70 and 77 million for the food program. And there was $5.3 billion that's being added to, help me out, Kevin.
Childcare.
Yeah, childcare. So it's some very big initiatives. But like I said, we're waiting to see what our SD 72 allocation is going to
I
be.
think that's what's really important.
Yeah. We knew what you were after. Yeah, thank you. Hey, anything further? Okay, well, thank you for that. And then on to item B, which is the Vancouver Island School Trustees Association motion to the British Columbia Trustees Association AGM. And on behalf of Chair Eddy, just like to, first of all, give her congratulations for coordinating, I think, a very clear and very timely motion that's been approved by the Vancouver Island School Trustees, and it follows forward on basically creating a holistic approach, I would call it, to challenging or to resourcing support for cybersecurity. At our particular session, we had a wonderful session that basically said, I think in short, you may not have been attacked in a cybersecurity manner at this point, but it may very well happen, and all of our school districts are at risk. And so on behalf of all school districts, we will have a motion at our AGM in April recommending that we take forward a suggestion to the ministry that there be some concerted effort and funding to try and coordinate a secure approach to cyber safety. And
Do we have that motion here?
it is not in the package. I believe she shared it with us and
Just the,
yeah, and just but she had, I thought we had seen the motion at the previous meeting, but I don't recall which meeting that was. But we can certainly get that specific for you. Educational issues, I see none here. On to business administration and finance warrant number 7, January 31st, 2025.
I'd like to move that.
Thank you. And the motion is that finance warrant number 7 dated January 31st, 2025 be accepted as presented. And the seconder, trustee Gladish. And all in favor? Carries unanimously. And on to item B, 2025, that the board adopt guiding principles for decision-making budget cycle 2025-2026 as presented.
Yeah, so we look for the board to support some guiding principles for the decision making, and it lays out a lot of what our practice is. The process will change a little bit, but this kind of helps guide some of those decisions that help us change process depending on what is needing to occur. Some key things are that it will be consultative, that we use the district strategic priorities. And then the last thing down at the bottom is this, principles have pretty much stayed the same, but something that has changed, is that we will not, look at initiatives outside the K-12, but this is to point out that childcare is now part, under the K-12 mandate. It's actually K-12 and childcare. So a little bit of a change from prior years. But yeah, I'd like for the board to, make a motion for this. There's a second part to it, the budget schedule. I'll talk about the budget schedule, then I'll look for the board to make a motion on the guiding principles. So the budget schedule it looks very similar to what we've done in past years, other than we're starting it in April rather than in March. Why we're doing that is because we're heading into a deficit year. We expect it to maybe be about 1 million, could be more, could be less. But we will find out those details. We get our funding announcement this Friday, and then we will find out our estimated costs over spring break. So anytime you're looking for, you're in a deficit year, we want to know exact, because there's a big difference between 500, 800 and $1 million deficit, and it'll help focus the conversations. So we have pushed the consultation back until we know what that number is. Some other different approaches that we're taking this year is we have a budget function committee process that has representatives from the unions, from employee work groups that we often will rely on for idea generation and to start a budget process. But because we're doing budget reductions this year, we really want to use most of that time for feedback on what those reductions will be. So we've actually asked each group to start looking at and provide management with areas to focus on so that it will assist us with developing that list. So what we're hoping is that in that session, we will be able to get very specific feedback on the items that are there and make adjustments. Now, the other part with this schedule is this is the proposed schedule, but based on that meeting and based on that week, we might need to change it. We like to pass the budget in May, but potentially we might need to actually extend. So this year being a somewhat unique year with a somewhat larger deficit, this is the planned schedule, but we might need to make some amendments. We have to pass the budget according to the School Act by June 30th. So that will be the latest. But we will try to stick on the schedule, but just give the board notice that we might have to make some changes in the schedule.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that. Yes, Trustee Hingham.
I'd like to make a motion to accept both pages and move them forward.
Okay, that is the principles and the timetable, and Trustee Briggs, second. Any further discussion? Okay, call the question. All.
No, I had some discussion.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I just think that we have had a surplus in the past that we've always relied on, and it was some long range thinking that went on before this. This is definitely a deficit situation. And I think it's very wise to show people when there are going to be cuts that we are going to use a fair and open practice, like on the first page of this document. And publishing all of the dates that we're going to be meeting means that there's fair access to discussions around what's going to be cut. And it may not be what you want to have cut, but at least you've had the opportunity to look at it, understand our thinking, and to see how we're going to move forward. Right now, I see down in the States, they're making massive cuts to government, and they're just coming in. There's no discussion, and people feel betrayed by the people making the cuts. And I would like to now say, it's not gonna look nice. Cuts to education never look nice. But if you can work with us and come up with positive ideas, I think that that's the best thing that we could possibly do, and that's why I'm moving the motion tonight.
Thank you for that. Trustee Hagan, anyone further comments? Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. And on to committee reports. If we could, with the permission of everyone, add this stuff. That's the Vancouver Island School Trustees that was held on March 7th and 8th in
Corporal B as well.
and Porto D.
Yeah.
Okay. Trustee Gladys, did you want to offer some comments about Vista?
Oh, it's not, okay, sure. Well, it was a long way to drive. And it was not fun driving back on the Malahat, but anyway, I'll be more positive. Yeah, there was a presentation on cybersecurity. It seems to be what we need to know and understand today. And so the fact that we are using multi-factor way of getting into our email, I think is a great thing. It's annoying, but I think it's a really good thing because we're trying to protect ourselves and the rest of the district. So lots of good information on that. And I know that's some good people that are helping us to stay safe. One of the things that was really fascinating for me was it was probably a couple of hours presentation on food, just on food, and the amount of money that is going in, Feeding Futures, that sort of thing, into schools to make sure every child is satiated, is not hungry. And that in fact, some of the parents who are struggling are given some food to go home with. And even in our district, I know that kids go home on the weekend with food to make sure that they eat on the weekend. But what was fascinating for me was that it was very holistic. It's the second time I've heard that word tonight, in that the policies and the practices are very inclusive. They have included, they have a chef in one of the schools. I actually, that serves all the schools. They serve a lot of diverse foods. Indian food, Mexican, Italian, all kinds of different types of food, so that everybody has a chance to enjoy what they enjoy. Maybe people like rice and beans more than they like potato salad and burgers, you know. So I thought that was fascinating for me, and it just brings people together. And what a cohesive group that gave us this presentation. Anyway, that was really quite fascinating for me. And something else too, they asked us, what is going well? What are you doing in your district? And I thought that was a really good opportunity to kind of share out some of what we're doing, to hear what other people are doing, because we don't often get to do that. So anyway, 3 things.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, just maybe to pick up on a couple of other thoughts around the school food program, the Flourish program, because it brought together so many community partners. And one of the beauties of I think their approach I heard is how much they recognize that food is often a cultural expression, and it was a way of teaching people about culture, and hence the effort to make a menu that focused on different cultures. And I think the thing I will remember, and it was also around nutrition and how to hide some of the really good things. So they said they had a new chef, but he cut the pieces of kale too big, so the kids knew they were in there. But if you cut them really small, you can mix them in. But it was a wonderful expression of how community can come together. And I believe in our own community, we have a lot of partners. There are a lot of things we are doing, but for me, it triggered the thought of maybe going to our Campbell River Community Foundation. They have what they call vital conversations with a focus. And wouldn't it be great to bring all of our partners who are doing things to help people with food and food security come together? So, yeah, no, it was a very well. The final part of it was we had the opportunity to tour the new at the refurbished Vic High, the second oldest school in Western Canada. And as I was sharing earlier, it's where I did my student teaching 52 years ago. So it changed a little bit. And it was a wonderful, and we are, as you may know, October 3rd and 4th, Campbell River will be drawing all of the Vancouver Island trustees from the 12 different school districts here. So we will want everyone to be on their best behavior for that. Yes.
High dates back to the 1800s.
Yeah, yeah,
1890 or
yeah.
something.
Amazing. Thank you. All right, now, and you also wish to speak on,
On the core
Core
code,
code,
while it's
please.
fresh in my mind, while I have my
Yes,
notes
yeah,
in front of me as well. It always amazes me, the core code, they, are so committed to professional development and making sure that everyone has access to really solid, good, professional development. Talk about Cody grants, collaboration grants, lots of grants. Teachers teaching teachers, which I love that. And so there's a good talk about that as well, mentorship grants. There was talk about the work that was done by Carol Fullerton. As you know, she did some work in classrooms in this district, and there was discussions about what people thought about that. So, you know, I won't say what they were, but they were important discussions. And obviously, this whole area of focus on numeracy has to continue. And if we, you know, we need to keep our focus on raising that those levels in our district. So there was some discussion as well about the Indigenous Day of Learning, which is coming up on March 31st. And you probably know already, I knew long ago. But anyway, the two keynotes are Jody Wilson-Raybould and Carolyn Roberts. So that should be fabulous. And I think everybody can attend that. And there'll be books for sale, so bring your charge card. And again, as I mentioned a while ago, there was discussion around the orientations done by the district and the CRDTA, and that maybe there needs to be a bit more collaboration on that, just so that people, you know, it makes it a rich experience that is timely for new staff. Okay. And to follow up on what you were saying, Jeff, one of the goals for next year will be on mentorship. So I think that's a really big thing and a very important thing. So anyway, that's about it.
thank you. And so, I'll just ask if there's, question and answer function is open online for questions on agenda items throughout the meeting. Have there been any questions online?
No, there have not.
Okay. So a final call made for questions, and the last agenda item and questions will be addressed at this time in the session. Are there any questions from those present? Hearing none, I call for adjournment, and thank you so much. And guess what?